I am the Executive Director of FARRMS, which I have been since January of 2018, so a little over 7 years. However, I'm also a Farm Beginnings graduate myself. I took the course in spring, I graduated in spring of 2014, and I started my business called Meadowlark Granary, which is a bakery and mill using uh, the wheat grown on our family farm near Drake and milling that into whole wheat flour and marketing whole wheat breads, baking mixes, and tasty treats at the local farmers market. Um, I haven't been very active with Meadowlark Greenery for a few years because my energy has been devoted to running farms and helping you all start your businesses. But this is my connection to what you all are doing. So just all that to say, I have been where you are and use my experience to share that experience with you so that you know that you don't have to make the same mistakes or tread the same path. Currently, I'm working with my dad to convert 10 acres of the family farm to certified organic production. So I still have a hand in agriculture production. My hands-on experience is that I've written a value-added producer grant for my own business, Meadowlark Granary, in 2015 for website development and hosting fees, packaging, labeling, materials, and design, a bakery assistant. And what I bring to tonight's session is about 18 years of grant writing experience, mostly state, federal, and foundation grants. I have special expertise in USDA local food grants. I served as the grant writer for Dakota College at Botno from 2013 to 2017 and wrote grants that supported the Entrepreneurial Center for Horticulture. And now I use my grant writing skills to support farms. So tonight's session, why a session on financing your farm business? Well, of course, Farm Beginnings is really just that, the beginning. Um, from here on out, there's so much more resources, more opportunities, more to do, more work. The top question we often get is, where can I find grants for my farm? Small businesses are challenging, and farm businesses even more so. It's normal and expected. It's going to take you a few years to break even and then even longer to turn a profit. You're going to need startup capital, tools, seeds, ingredients, equipment, land before you can even get started. So this session, now that you have your business plan, now that we've given you the tools to create that business plan, here is where you can use that business plan to find financing to start your business. There's three key ideas I want you to take from tonight's session. I want you to get a greater appreciation for the value of the budgeting, financial planning, and record keeping tools and ideas that we've shared with you in this course. You're going to need all the things you've just learned: budgets, balance sheets, records, marketing plan, to show that you know your customer and you have a well-researched plan to generate income. Most importantly, you're going to need that holistic goal supported by your values that you created at the beginning of this course. That's going to serve as your North Star to guide you in decision making throughout your career of operating your farm business. The second key idea I want you to take away is that grants and loans are tools. They're useful when applied to the right purpose. They're not useful when applied to the wrong purpose. They're not a substitute for a sound business plan, and you cannot build a financial plan around the assumption that you'll get a grant. But paired with a sound business plan, grants and loans can serve as accelerators to help springboard your progress. And the third thing is the most important thing. If you take nothing else away from this tonight, I want you to remember that you do not have to go it alone. FARRMS is here to help. And we are connected to a universe of resource providers like Alan and others like him. You're going to see a bunch of resources tonight: loans, grants, other resource providers, and it'll probably feel a bit overwhelming. Don't feel like you need to memorize this all. FARRMS is here to serve as your navigator through the resources to find what you need. Shelby referred to it as speed dating to find her best advisor. Well, in this case, we're here to be your matchmaker so that you don't have to go through all the speed dating alone. We have connections with the small business development centers, North Dakota Women's Business Center, regional councils, North Dakota Farm Management, etc. And we're constantly growing those relationships so that we can help you find the resources that you need. So quickly, a little bit of time on the difference between grants and loans. So first of all, grants. Grants are a one-time infusion of funds for a specific purpose or project. You will need an identified plan for the use of the funds. You'll need to describe your business, and you may need to provide financials to show that you are solvent. Grants are usually not operating money. Loans can sometimes be used, it's very typical for farmers to get an operating loan for the year, but grants are generally for specific purposes. Grants do not have to be paid back, but you must use the funds as you said you would, complete the activities you promised, and submit reports and receipts proving that you did. Seldom are grants offered without a required matching investment from the applicant. There are a few small grants that don't require a match, but you should expect to have a match requirement if you're applying for a grant. There may be restrictions on what you can and can't do with items purchased with grant funds. And they're often reimbursement based. You need to have the funds up front to make the purchases, and then you show that you made the purchases, provide receipts, provide proof of purchase, and then you get the grant funds as a reimbursement. There's no free money. Loans have to be paid back. Grants too, well, they don't have to be paid back. They come with obligations to conduct certain activities like research, or they have a cost of time for documenting and reporting. Often grant funders, even foundations, in return for the grant, they need to show your story or show that you accomplished something with the grant so that they can continue the program, because they probably have funders that they're accountable to as well. Grants are a one-time boost. You should not build your business plan on grants, and you can't always rely on them. This is something that those of us with federal grants are learning very well right now in these times. So use your grants to aid your business plan. Don't change your business plan to apply for a grant. Loans, in comparison, have to be paid back with interest. You will need an identified plan for use of the funds. We'll need to provide extensive information about your business, and we'll need a clear plan for repayment of the loan. You likely will need to provide collateral. Most lenders will put a lien on the property or equipment, as Alan said earlier. The lender may still want documentation on how you spent loan funds, and their main concern is your ability to repay the loan and interest in a timely manner. So, are you ready to apply for loans or grants? This is where your whole farm plan comes in. You need to start with your holistic goal and your financials to assess if loans or grants, or perhaps neither at this point, are right for you. But don't worry, we're here to help you get ready. So Jake has compiled this fantastic loans resource guide. And you have the link to it in your session plan, and I'm sure Jake has put it in your portal and made it available to you. We have a rough checklist of some things you should have ready if you're approaching a lender. Your business plan, of course, itemized spending plan. I think this enterprise evaluations is really key. In your, I didn't attend this year's session, but I've attended CRE's holistic financial management sessions in the past and Jen's sessions. So I'm pretty sure that you've talked about enterprise budgets, right? Yes, good. I'm seeing nods. So being able to show those enterprise budgets and show that you've made the comparisons, you've run the numbers, and you've thought about what it's going to cost you to scale up, as well as how it will increase your income. This template is a great example of that work. I think a lender is going to find that really valuable to show that this infusion, this loan of say $5,000 will allow me to scale up and therefore increase my income, and I will be able to pay the loan back. Profit and loss statement with past and future projections. So being able to project your income. And again, these are things that Alan can help you with, that we can help you with. A DUNS number, and I'll talk in a little bit about how to apply for one of those. But know that we or Alan or any other resource providers can help you with that work. So how do you know if you're ready to apply for a loan? Do you have a clear idea of what you're going to grow and market, when, where, and how you will market it? A couple years ago at the Marble Seed Conference, we attended a session on the Lean Farm, which is an excellent book. And he pointed out that farmers have a tendency to grow stuff first, and then after the fact, figure out how to market it. And that's backwards. You need to figure out what you can market and how you're going to market it, and then make the plan to produce it. Do you have a clear idea of all of your expenses? Are your goals reasonable? Are you confident you can complete the activities you're proposing and spend the money in the way stated? Especially with grants, do you have the capacity to keep careful records and submit reports and documentation, hour logs, receipts, etc.? Will you be able to make the loan payments? Do you have some funds already to meet the match requirement for grants? I just want to show you a little bit what's in this resource guide. We're going to watch this video clip in a few minutes. This shows you some sources of where you can find loans. You heard from the Farm Service Agency last week. Bank of North Dakota has sources of lending. Farm Credit Services of America, and here in North Dakota, there's Farm Credit Services in various, they're in Minot, they're in Mandan, they're in Fargo. U.S. Small Business Administration, as Alan said, they back loans. Dakota Business Lending, and then, of course, your local credit unions and your local job development authorities and your local regional planning councils. So some of them have zero interest loans for small businesses. Some of them have grants. It just varies by region. I also want to point out some resources that are available for help. Of course, the North Dakota Small Business Development Center. There's also the North Dakota Farm Management Program, and they have instructors at community colleges around the state, and they exist to provide, they're sort of like the Small Business Development Center, but specifically for ag producers. And they will sit down with you, they will make your financial projections, they have a lot of benchmark data. Now, they're typically used to working with conventional commodity crop growers and livestock producers. However, Jason Fuel at Lake Region State College has done some work with vegetable specialty crop growers, and we have a special partnership with Jason on a SARE project to help the farm management education instructors, small business development centers, SCORE, all of the business advisors understand the unique needs that you have as a small scale specialty crop grower, small scale livestock grower, microgreens. You have some unique needs that are different than traditional small businesses and are different from the um, conventional farmers. And so we're working closely with all these business advisors to ensure that they really are the experts, and then we're going to help them understand additionally the specific needs that you have. So definitely check out farm management education. There is a tuition cost with this, but there's also funding for tuition reimbursement available through FSA. So don't shy away because of the tuition cost, because that can be mitigated. Finding out if you're ready for loans and grants, this is where technical assistance comes in, helping you get ready, helping you update those enterprise budgets. There's simply too much information to put into a 2-hour session, and we can't teach you to write a grant or fill out a loan application in just 2 hours. We can work with you over the long term and walk you through the process. But does that mean we will write your grant application for you or fill out your loan for you? No. For one thing, the most importantly, you need to go through the process of writing that grant application or filling out that loan application to cement your goals and your ideas in your head. Like Alan said, if you have the AI write it for you, you're not going to be able to answer the questions, and you're not going to be able to implement the plan because it's not your plan. What we can do is review your goals and your financial plans with you. We can help you identify appropriate funding sources. We can connect you with small business advisors like Alan, who can really get in the nitty-gritty with your financials and help, find the things that we didn't see or that you didn't see. And there are some professional grant writers available. There is a fee for their services. But if you have your plan laid out and you just need help putting the words on paper, we can connect you with those folks as well. We can also review your loan applications and your grant applications, help you with wording, make suggestions. Maybe you should reframe this section. Maybe, hey, don't forget to talk about your sustainability goals, or, so we can serve as reviewers for you. So when are grants a good fit? Here are some examples. They're a great tool to progress you forward, for example, to scale up, but you do have to sustain the growth that you achieve with the grant. So Cows & Co. Creamery is located in Carrington, North Dakota. They have a 1,500 head dairy, and one member of the family, Marty, had started a gelato making business. And that was achieving some success, but she knew they also wanted to expand to make cheese, specifically Gouda, from the Netherlands, which is where they're from. So they wrote and won a grant from the North Dakota Department of Ag for equipment to start up their cheese making. There's also a grant that we're going to talk about from North Central SARE, which is focused on on-farm research. So if you've identified a problem and want to create a research project to solve it, a research grant would be a great fit. Glenn Philbrick, near Turtle Lake at Hiddendale Farm, had a problem with grasshoppers destroying his vegetable and flower crops. He has done a fair amount of on-farm research, so he knew that he enjoys it, and he has the capacity to keep careful records and write detailed reports. So he applied for a North Central SARE Farmer Rancher grant for a research project to study, it's like using inputs to increase the Brix levels of specific crops, because Brix is like sugars in the plants. And for some reason, that deters the grasshoppers, the higher the Brix level. And so he created a research project to study this. And it had the added benefit of, if it worked, deterring grasshoppers from his crops. And so he received a North Central SARE grant for that. So some key things to remember. Most grants are reimbursement based. You need to have the funds up front in order to make the purchases or do the work. And then you submit invoices and proof of purchase to receive reimbursement. Some grants require a match. This goes along with the reimbursement system. You need to prove you have the funds in your bank account or have a loan secured in the amount of the match when you apply. This shows that you have the money to make the purchases, and then they can reimburse you. Sometimes a portion of the match can be in kind, and you may be able to use your time or the value of your raw commodity, in the case of the value added producer grant, as in kind match. But that wouldn't be all of the match, it would just be a portion. The most important thing is start early, especially if you're pursuing a federal grant where you will first need to apply for a DUNS or UEI number, because that's going to take some time to process. And again, there's a lot of information here. It can be overwhelming, but that's why we're here to help you navigate it. Are you ready to look at some grants? Are there questions before we dive into the grants list? Okay. So Jake and the FARRMS team have compiled some great lists of grants and loans. At this point in time in particular, there's a few of these that are no longer available because of the volatility of the federal funding scene right now. But we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the grants that we know of. So I'm offering this as a sort of a qualifier because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. So some of these could go away through no fault of our own. But this is we're working with the information that we currently have. So we've got two slideshows. This is the beginning farmer grants. These are the grants that we feel are more suited for those who are just starting out. We have another slideshow with a list of grants that are probably better suited if you've been farming for a few years and have a bit more experience. So the value added producer grant, this is the one that I myself wrote and won. This is specifically for value added agriculture. So that means you're taking the raw material and you're turning it into something else. In my case, it was taking the wheat grown on the family farm and producing flour and bread. It could be strawberries into jam. It could be, it could be sheep into, marketing meat. It could be wool, sheep into marketing wool. And you can consider it a value add to market specialty crops. So what I'm saying is, say you're raising vegetables and you could get a value added producer grant for washing and packing and branding your produce and taking it to farmers market, because you've added value from its raw state in the field to the point when you brought it to market. You've washed it, you've labeled it, you've packed it, you've turned it into something that's more sellable. These are both planning grants with a maximum of 75,000, or working capital grants with a maximum of 250,000. But there is a 100% match required. So every dollar you request, you also have to provide a dollar of your own, and that has to be money that's going to be used for the project that you're applying for. So why don't I go through the whole list, and then I can come back to this one if you guys want me to spend a little more time on those. Because I actually have my application if you guys want to dig into that more. So, the value added producer grant comes from the USDA Rural Development. So that is a federal grant. And it's operated through our Rural Development Office here in North Dakota. APUC, the Ag Products Utilization Commission, is a state of North Dakota Department of Ag grant. So the goal of APUC is to create new wealth and employment opportunities through the development of new and expanded uses of North Dakota's agricultural products. No limit, and there's a 25% match requested at minimum. Some of these grants, your chances are better the more match you provide. And you have 4 opportunities to apply each year. And the way it works is so if you submit your application by January 1st, they review the first 10 that are submitted by January 1st at the February 26th, 27th quarterly meeting. If your application number 11, you get reviewed in May. So you just get bumped to the next quarterly cycle. Some examples of these. So a pro tip for reviewing grant programs is always find their list of awarded applications and look through it and see what they've funded before. And if you can find summaries, or sometimes if you're really lucky, you can find other people's applications. But probably your best resource is looking at what they've funded before to see if your project or your idea is a good fit.
Hey, Stephanie, there was one question that came into the chat. Are all grants fund matched or fund matching?
Great question. So no, not all of them, but the larger ones, the federal ones and the state ones, are probably going to require a match. But the smaller ones, like Food Animal Concerns Trust, see, these are only up to 3,000, but there's no match required. And it's probably not reimbursement based. They probably give you the check up front. Farmers Market, North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association, of course, no match, but those are very small. American Farmland Trust, no match. So the foundation grants, the non-federal, non-state ones, probably won't require a match, but they will be smaller. But the big ones are going to require a match. NRCS EQIP won't require a match, but this isn't really a grant, it's a cost share, and it's reimbursement based. So did that answer the question? Okay.
I think so.
So some examples of what APUC has funded. So, and they have different tracks. There's applied research, farm diversification. All right. These folks by Devil's Lake diversified their operation with the addition of meat goats. They got $16,209.77. Guardian Grains got a little over 40,000 to develop 2 whole wheat pastas using heritage wheat varieties. Glimpse of the Prairie got 90,000 to build a commercial kitchen on their farm. So they really focus on, if you look at this, these projects are all leading to improved marketing of their product. Even the goat farm, the land utilized for raising the goats is currently unproductive. Goats will assist in restoring the land as well as adding additional income to the farming operation. So, it's about putting that spin on how is what I'm asking for going to improve the marketing of an agricultural product from North Dakota. The SARE Farmer and Rancher Grant is the one that Glenn Philbrick had. Maximums are 15,000 for individuals, 30,000 for groups. There's no match required for this one. Hey, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. And this one is reimbursement based, so you have to spend the money and be reimbursed. Let's see. So the call for proposals will be released in mid-August, and proposals are due early December. Decisions made in February, and the funds are available to recipients in spring. Likewise, the SARE program, not only do they have a ton of grant writing resources on their website, they have a database of all their grant project reports going back to 1988. So even if you don't necessarily have a grant project in mind and you just feel like learning, or maybe you have a problem you're trying to solve, there's a ton of knowledge in here that can help you. For example, maybe you're struggling with cabbage looper moths that are destroying your brassicas. No, okay. Somebody else, this isn't what I was looking for, but somebody in 2001 was working on growing cabbage in North Dakota, and they shared what they learned. And they share their process. So there's just a ton to be learned from reading these project reports, learning what other farmers figured out through trial and error. EQIP. Now you heard from, did the NRCS staff talk about EQIP last week?
They didn't go too much into detail about it, but they said that the program was still alive.
Okay. So this is one where instead of filling out an application online, you would go to your local NRCS office and work with an NRCS staffer. But EQIP helps, provides cost share to help you implement conservation practices. One of those conservation practices is a high tunnel to extend your growing season. Irrigation is a conservation practice. So a lot of farmers use EQIP grants to put up high tunnels, and several farmers like Lori Martin, I'm going to talk about our Farms Loan Program in a minute. Lori got a loan because, again, these are reimbursement based. So you want to put up a $10,000 high tunnel. You need to have $10,000 in the bank in order to purchase the high tunnel before you can be reimbursed by the EQIP cost share. So Lori came to FARRMS. We gave her a $10,000 loan. She also got the EQIP cost share. She purchased her high tunnel with the FARRMS loan. She was reimbursed by the EQIP cost share, and then she paid the loan back. So we've had several farmers pair loans and grants, loans with EQIP like that. American Farmland Trust. This one isn't open right now, but maybe it'll come back. It's up to $10,000. There's no match. And several farmers, including Jan Skoog, have received this over the past few years. This one is specifically for livestock growers, especially ones that are raising unique varieties or heritage varieties. It is up to 3,000 and no match. And then if you're planning to sell at a farmer's market, you should definitely apply for these. They're very simple application. The North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association offers these each year. I reached out today and they said they're meeting on Monday. So after Monday, they'll let us know specifically the amounts and which of these grants. But typically, if you are a new member of selling at a farmer's market or selling direct to the consumer, you're eligible if you're within your first or second year. And they're $300, but that's $300 that'll buy you a market canopy, some signage. It's a really nice, easy little grant, a little boost. They also have a farm to school grant if you're selling to schools. And then there's these are 3 different databases. There's a third one in your grant resource list. So like the loan resource list, we also have a grant resource list, which there's probably a few additional ones in here that are not in the slideshow. Town and Country Credit Union used to have a grant available to small businesses, especially if you bank with them. I called them today and they couldn't verify if they're still offering the program, but something to keep an eye on. And then, checking with your local JDA or Regional Planning Council, which is something that we can help with. Additional info, Michael Fields Association provides grants advising as well as resource guides and recordings of their grant writing webinars. North Dakota Women's Business Center has some information. And the North Dakota Ag Mediation Service, this doesn't really fit under grants, but I needed to put it somewhere. They also offer credit counseling at very low cost, $25 an hour, and that's provided by those farm management instructors. So if you're struggling to pay off a loan or need some assistance, that is available to you as well. So FARRMS also has a loan program. As I said, Lori Martin used our FARRMS loan to pair with an NRCS EQIP grant. We've also had farmers use the loans for a trailer to modify it into a mobile cooler for fresh produce, cover the upfront cost of a deep winter greenhouse. So the terms of our loan are $7,500 maximum. It's a 7-year loan, 5% to 7% interest, and farm beginning students get 1 year interest free. The way it works is we're really invested in basically the idea of teaching you to fish rather than just handing you a fish. We don't have our loan application form on our website anymore. We have a loan inquiry form that we can send you, which is designed to gather some basic information, your business description, current sources of funds, any loans or grants you've already received, other funders you've applied to, and uploading your business plan. And then we set up an interview with you to gather information. So we're trying to get the big picture, and then we'll put together a package for you of what we think other loans and grants that you would be well suited for, as well as connecting you with other business advisors. Will help improve sections of your business plan to help get you ready to apply for those loans and grants. And then where there's gaps left over or where you might need some funding to leverage one of those other sources, like that match, that's where FARRMS loans come in. So this loan inquiry form is available by request. So at 7:34, I have a 15-minute video from last year's session of a farmer named Jill Patterson who runs Twisted Carrot Farm near, is it Northwood, Jake? Yeah, Northwood, south of Grand Forks. And she has a great story about her own experience applying for a loan from her local bank and what she needed to do and how she prepared.
My name's Jill Patterson, and I am the owner of Twisted Carrot Farm. And Twisted Carrot Farm has taken out 2 loans. I have one now that's due soon and will be paid for fully after my CSA members pay their membership fee this month. There are some key things that I had already done before I approached my bank initially for any loan that I think might be helpful for you guys to know. So I'll go through those and then make sure that there's some time for questions also. It requires a bit of history because you can't just walk in and get a loan right off the bat, as we all know. It doesn't really work that way. You sort of have to grow into it, I think, literally. First, I farmed without any help for 1 year just to see if I could do it, to see what I could grow and what I wanted to grow. And that year allowed me to screw up without anybody watching, to make mistakes without anybody judging me. And I could remove whatever yoke I may have had on my own shoulders about traditional farming and take some non-pressure time to see what worked for me and what I liked. So then in my second year, that's when I became a commercial farmer. I applied for a grant from the North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association. And that small grant helped Twisted Carrot purchase a table, a chair, and a market tent. It was small, but it was a lot for me then. It was a $300 grant. And a few months later, I earned a grant from FARRMS for $500. These were my one-time boosts that Stephanie had mentioned earlier. They were both small, specialized grants supporting what I was already doing or just about to do. And they also helped me later when I was applying for a loan, because those grants showed I could support, I could find a fit, find money that I could use well, and develop professional relationships. That's okay. I have a kid here with me. No cracking the plastic. And that I could develop professional relationships. And also, I found that using grants showed my bank later on that I was thrifty and resourceful in my own right and honest with the money. Other things that I did in my second year that proved to be really important when I applied for loans in my third year were I separated my personal finances completely from my business with a business account. So I opened a business account at my bank in Twisted Carrot's name. I created a limited liability corporation, which also got me an EIN that I would have later needed, the employee identification number. I went to all the farmers markets because I was a market farmer that I could. And in that way, I could research what I should grow to sell. I got to know the ins and the outs of the trade and really familiarized myself with what others were doing and how they were doing it, so that by the time I got to the bank the next year, I knew terminology and had a clear vision and realistic path to a tangible goal. And I was able to talk the language. That's really important, to not only know what you're doing, but show other people that you know what you're doing. So my second year, LLC, separate checking account, I earned 2 grants and tested the waters of my potential market. And I also got a second year of growing under my belt. Very importantly, though, this was the first year that I created my first business plan and my first mission statement, which my mission statement is the subheading of my business plan. This is huge. If you don't have a written business plan, you don't have a plan. My business plan became incredibly important to both me and the bank because I was able, so they can see, especially if you don't overwrite it, you can show a history of successes and even things that didn't work out. Instead of writing over them, I actually cross through them so that anybody who wants to see what I did in 2021, did it all work out? Maybe some things didn't. I don't erase it. I strike through it, and then I'll even explain what I did. Maybe it didn't work out because I found something better. And I like to keep that for historic purposes. The bank actually really liked that I had done that when I did present my business plan to them as part of my loan packet, they saw the strike throughs and what my thought process was towards developing where I was going. So they're okay with seeing you pivot. That's something I think that's really important, because we all like to tell you, you got to have the plan, you have to have the vision. Yeah, you do. But we're also human and you're growing, and you have to be okay with showing that you are changing and growing, but it has to be with the plan. So that's the living document. That is also what I developed in my second year that was really important. So that kind of jumps me into the third year, the loan year. And the first thing I did when I was considering a loan, and well before I needed a loan, was call my loan officer before I needed him. And this was with my local bank, and I requested a meeting with him. And during our appointment, I started a 30-minute my pitch. I wasn't selling myself, but I needed to tell him in short order why I was there. And I essentially said, this year, my micro farm increased its profits by 128%, but I had to turn away 14 families because demand for my veggies outweighed my supply. And I'm considering forward investing with a loan for a high tunnel and commercial irrigation so I can accommodate more families. So I'm already explaining why I need that and my thought process behind it. But that I also needed to understand the type of loan that something like this would require, that me building would require, and what kind of payoff structure. And I came with a whole bunch of questions so that he knew that I was serious. And so I also asked if he was willing, and this is important too, I asked if he was willing to share what the most desirable lendee would look like to him, so that I can make sure that I built my portfolio accordingly. Because I was really open about being a newbie, but that I wanted to know before I needed the money. And by the way, you can do this, and it's okay to say at the end, I don't think I'm ready for a loan yet, but now I know more, and so I'll be prepared when the time comes. This does one other thing too. It opens a relationship with your bank and your bank lender in advance, so that when you come back to them again, they know you. You know, you're not Mrs. So-and-so, you're Jill. Oh, how's it going? And I remember this, and where are we now? So then they can see, okay, you've come back and now you have it together. Now you're both on the same page, because you have to be. They don't want to lend money to somebody who needs it. They want to lend money to somebody who wants it and can pay it back. And I know that sounds really silly and kind of strange, but it really is true. They want you to be a strong lendee. So I wasn't looking for a lot of money, but I walked in there looking like I wanted to borrow $1 million. I took it really seriously. I dressed up, I shook hands, I showed up on time. I had a list of questions. I wanted to make Twisted Carrot look good. And I also didn't want Twisted Carrot to take out a loan that didn't fit my purposes. So I took the paperwork home with me that day, and I asked him for everything that I would need to fill out should I be applying for a loan that day. So then I was able to take home all of the paperwork and take my time and go through it in my own time. I didn't set a follow-on date, but I was very quickly ready. And so I called or emailed and said, let's get back together. I think I've got a portfolio that I'd like you to look at. And so the next time I went in, I had a no kidding portfolio. I had a binder with my business. I've got a motto of a picture of vegetables and the title of my company. And then on the side of the spine, I had the year, and inside it was laminated flip through of who I was. And I realized also that I needed to educate him and the bank of what a CSA was, because a lot of people don't know what a CSA is. And so he hadn't. So he'd been lending money to farmers for a bazillion years, but hadn't heard of a CSA. So I was able to explain to him what I did also. And that kind of leveled the playing field of here's what I am and here's where I am, why I'm different. But I needed to show that since he didn't know it. So sometimes don't walk in there thinking they know everything about your operation either. Make sure that they understand fully what you are, because you might have a strange niche and they're going to need to know that. So in my binder for the bank, I had my business plan highlighting the grants I'd already won and used, info on what a CSA is, vegetables I grow for the CSA, the whole list, how many families were waitlisted on for Twisted Carrot, and how much money those families would bring into Twisted Carrot, all 3 years of my profit loss statements, advertising and marketing history. So I had some really nice printouts that I posted in there or printed out in there of what I had posted and where. And I also explained how that got me business, because I think harvest.org, localharvest.org is where I ended up getting a whole bunch of Grand Forks customers, because I'm a little Northwood person. And so I put that in there that because my marketing and advertising was getting me, my free marketing and advertising was getting me some cash. And my farm track number, copies of my latest bank and investment statements, making sure the date was clear on each one, because just like a mortgage, they want the most current ones of your investment firms or from your investment firms. The loan paperwork that he had given me, I had it all filled out. And I also had an itemized list of what I would spend the money on. So really clearly of how much everything cost in the total. And my DUNS number, I don't know if you guys covered DUNS. Did you guys cover DUNS yet? The DUNS number is Dun and Bradstreet number, and that is required if you ever apply for a federal grant or loan or insurance, or federal loan or insurance. They're free, so you can get one before you need one. My EIN to show that I was an LLC. And I didn't need a cover letter. Neither the loan officer nor I thought that we needed one, since it was my second time coming. It's a local bank. He was the one who was speaking on my behalf. So you may, depending upon your loan requirements, you may want or feel like you need to put a cover letter on there, but I didn't have one. So my loan covered what the NRCS EQIP grant didn't, because I had sought a third grant for my high tunnel. And that paperwork really helped, because it was showing that not only was I applying for money for my high tunnel, but that I already had $1,000 earmarked. I was going to use the loan it was a total of about $5,000, but I wanted that $5,000 loan. And in return, once I'd used the money, EQIP would give me $1,000 back. So then I would use that to pay back the loan, and also $4,000 of how I would use the profit from Twisted Carrot that I would use to pay for it. So I think Twisted Carrot's an example of how your past really does make the future your present. What it had succeeded in doing leading up to seeking a loan helped me get that loan, and as well as the EQIP loan along with it. So that's my little micro farms history or loan history. And to second what Mary Beth had said, it might seem like a lot, but this was over years and growing and incrementally moving forwards and keeping my paperwork organized in a binder. It will seem like a lot, but there are people who are more than willing to help you and walk you through all of these processes. I have never felt alone in doing any of this, and had always really appreciated the help.
I think Jill really summed up everything we discussed tonight.